Ayurveda is the science of life. Yoga being on the mat. Ayurveda is all about living off the mat. How do we live in tune with the elements of nature? It's 5,000 years old. So the doshas are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Vata is responsible for our nervous system. Eat a warm cooked meal as much as you can, not a big heaping salad. As far as powders, turmeric, coriander, and cumin. If you're really a go-getter with Ayurveda, get some asafoetida. It is the best anti-bloat.
Welcome to the Vitalist Podcast, where healing meets wonder. This is your space to gain transformative knowledge, deepen your mind-body connection, and awaken your human spirit. If you're ready to connect with your innate potential, embrace life's challenges, and expand what you believe is possible, this is the place. Get ready to slow down, be moved, and live like a true vitalist. Welcome to the Vitalist, Dr. Meghana Thanki. My name is Dr. Keiko, and we are here to talk about Ayurvedic medicine and just what you provide as your lens to health and healing, and how you perceive not just the body and health, but how you perceive the world and how we attune to the universe and nature. So let's start with this. You're naturopathic trained, and then you got your Ayurvedic practitioner. What was missing from naturopathic medicine where you're like, oh, I need Ayurveda? Like something's just not clicking for this.
During naturopathic school, we learned so much. And there was just this calling within me that was like, wait, I got to find a lifestyle system of healing that feels all encompassing. And so I graduated, and I remember just being like, Ayurveda, like it just clicked. And knowing that I'm Indian by background, wasn't born and raised in India, but born with like a lot of the culture in my family with using the spices and watching my grandma cook and meditation taught at like the age of like 15. I was sat down in my basement like with my grandfather learning meditation. And I was like, all right, like there's something here, and I gotta go and like learn all this stuff. And so then that's when I just said like, more schooling, let's go. And along with that, I became a yoga teacher. So it was like yoga, Ayurveda, sister sciences, let's complete this thing. Let's get it all, let's get all that knowledge so that I wasn't so much jack of all trades, master of none kind of feeling. Yeah. So this really like buttoned it all up for me and made me feel like, all right, now we're talking about a lifestyle and a way of living.
Is there anything in naturopathic medicine that contradicts Ayurveda?
Not at all. Okay. No, I think it's just one of those things where Chinese medicine really actually was fully taught. And so we were fully trained in Chinese. And that I like to say they're kind of these like sister sciences in a way too. And Chinese medicine kind of just like took off and Ayurveda kind of got left behind. And I'm like, all right, it's my mission to like bring that medicine back into everyday living.
What made you go into naturopathic medicine?
So come from a family of doctors, MDs, all MDs. And so I just, Indians, you're like, okay, doctors, engineers, like, come on, got to be a doctor. But my heart wasn't in it. So I started Googling and I looked up like, how can I still be a physician and treat with natural modalities? And I found, these naturopathic schools and these degrees and these doctorates that you can acquire. And I was like, all right, and where are these schools? And I think there's 4 like in-person accredited schools: Connecticut, Washington State, Oregon, and here. And so I chose, the Arizona school. It was called the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine. And now it's called Sonoran.
Yeah.
So, this was 18 years ago now.
Wow, 18 years.
I graduated in 2006.
Okay. So, and then when did you pick up the Ayurveda training? That came
right after that.
So you graduated?
Okay. Went back to actually my hometown, Michigan. Started studying with Dr. Paul Douglas, one of my first mentors. Led me to Dr. Suhas in Hawaii. Led me to a lot of mentoring and programs in Fremont, California. Like a wellness program, then a practitioner program. And then if I really took there's like an accreditation now that's set in place. And if I took it, I'd be an Ayurvedic doctorate, actually, because I have that many hours in training. And then my most recent was a 3-year training program, some of which was in India. And that all the doctors would come from India to teach us. So we were learning like serious traditional Indian medicine.
So based on how you learned the traditional Ayurveda, how do you use it in your practice? Like, are you pretty, a truist and a purist to the traditional method, or do you bend and adapt things to kind of fit with modern life?
I bend and adapt, but I am such a purist, all the way to the point of like my branding. I'm like Second Nature Clinic, naturopathic medicine, and Ayurveda. Like I always keep it in its own little separate category. And I've always been that way. I've been such a purist and a truist. And human design, being a projector, I'm sure you know a little bit about human design. That's part of my authenticity. It just is. So yeah, I love just like keeping it separate. And I did study traditionally from the books, but I wouldn't say like I'm a Sanskrit scholar, and I can like go back and like read a lot in the textbooks. So in that way, like I follow what I've been taught, but I can't necessarily go back to the text and be like, all right, let's go read what this says. At the time, maybe because we had to learn some Sanskrit, but I'll always, be tried and true. And even when I do some of the cleansing retreats, I do the traditional detoxification method because there are some places doing more like kind of the cookie cutter approach. Once you get really kind of established, you got volume of people, you got to get people through and do the different treatments. But I kind of tend to stay a little boutique-y and more authentic and more like, okay, this is how we're doing it.
So I want to back up. Most people don't really know what Ayurvedic is. So can you give us a framework? Like what are the pillars that Ayurveda stands on?
Yeah. So Ayurveda translates into the science of life, right? The science of living. So we have Ayur, which means life. And then we have the Vedas. And most people have kind of heard of the Vedas by now, especially because yoga, really took off. We can find a yoga studio on like every corner of every street now, which is so cool. And so yoga being on the mat, how to kind of move and keep body in movement and mind and body connected, Ayurveda is all about living off the mat. So how can we live in tune with nature? I'd say is like the crux, if anyone's listening here. How do we live in tune with nature? How do we live in tune with the elements of nature, right? And so if we can break down even just getting to understand nature and saying, okay, we have fire, we have water, we have earth, we have air, and we have space, then we can start to understand those same elements in our body and start to live in tune with the times of the day, the seasons, the foods that are good for our bellies, and start to go to bed on time, wake up on time. So a lot of it is based on lifestyle and living in tune with nature.
Yeah, the rhythms.
Yeah, the rhythms. You got it.
And so Ayurveda, it's similar. I mean, this podcast is called The Vitalist. And The Vitalist is there's an innate intelligence in the body. There's an energy.
Absolutely.
Where does Ayurveda see what is the energetic component of the body? What is the animating life force in the body? How do you speak to that?
Absolutely. So there's this word, ojas, O-J-A-S. And in Chinese medicine, it's qi, right? In plain English, it's energy, right? So ojas is vitality. That is the translated word. If you were to look up, essence, vitality, life force, right? Those are three very similar words to ojas. And that we're actually born with 8 drops of ojas, this essence, this vitality. And, as babies, right, when we hold a little baby or we see a baby, I mean, it's full of vitality, right? And it's got that ojas and the essence and the oiliness to its skin and the glowing nature, and everybody wants a piece of it, right? And they're just like, they're drawn to the energetics of a small baby. And so think of the fact that as we age, we start to lose some of that ojas. And that's the whole aging process. Talk about dry skin, talk about, gray hair, so this is what we lose over time. So Ayurveda teaches us how to keep up with the aging process. So a lot of these rituals are done as preventative medicine so that we can stay young and stay vital. And so we're talking warm oil massage, right? Like tongue scraping, putting warm oil on the top of our heads. Simple things, but that can, over time, daily, keep us vital.
So how do you get someone to understand, okay, ojas, let's go back to that. It's vitality. The 8 drops is really interesting. Is that more of an energetic thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's an energetic thing, and I think it's an oily substance. It's like it's our hormones. It's our vital nature.
So does each drop represent something?
Not necessarily. More, it's a subtle energy form, I think. And the other piece of this ojas situation is there's 7 dhatus, or 7 tissue layers, we call it, from our blood and lymph all the way down to our reproductive tissue. And as those 7 layers get nourished through the food we eat, that last thing that gets nourished is the ojas. So we're starting to build the ojas in the body. Now, because it takes like 30 days for our food to actually reach all the different tissues, hence like our bone tissue, our bone marrow, they get the kind of the last pickings, right? So there's different ways that the nutrition follows and flows to the body, then finally making this last stop of this vitality and this ojas. But there are ways to feed ojas directly also. So we don't always need that, nutritional avalanche.
Yeah, to go through all the layers,
yes,
right?
We don't necessarily, we need that too, but there's also ways to directly feed ojas. So now we're talking ghee, we're talking oil, we're talking, I don't know if you've ever seen those ojas balls.
No, never.
They're kind of like what we think of like the protein balls, but they've got like cardamom and nutmeg and some almonds, pistachios, like ghee, and they're rolled up, in these little balls. So a good way to kind of feed the ojas.
So ojas, because of the oil constitution, you want to give it like nourishing,
there you go,
moist oil, fat saturate.
You got it. Yes, and we're missing that in modern society, right? We're just like, oh, okay, like cut out the fats, cut out the good oils. And so more and more we're very much in tune with the same principles of like, we need the good fats, we need the good oils, we need to nourish our colon. Our colons are pretty much probably dry.
When you talked about those layers, what layer is most commonly getting blocked?
I personally love treating skin conditions, so I'm very concentrated on our blood tissue and inflammation and how that turns up, especially we live in a very hot desert atmosphere. So we have a longer, what we call Pitta season, which is like that hot season. So I tend to see more skin conditions crop up. So I'm more focused on what we call Rakta, which is the second tissue layer. So there's Rasa, Rakta, Mausa, Meda, Majja.
And Rakta would be?
Rakta is the blood tissue. It's the second one. So as we keep going, then we can hit into like more bone health. Then we can hit into like reproductive health. So you can kind of see all the different diseases that would fall into each of those categories. So yeah, I would say like, Rasa and Rakta, the first 2. And then slowly as we keep going, some of the cleansing processes, that's why they're so... They entail a lot, and they're many days long because we need to reach the further dhatus. We need to reach those tissue layers so we can get to the depths of them and clean them out and give ourselves an oil and filter change.
I can conceptually understand the ojas and like vitality and vitalism. How do you get people to have a better relationship with it?
When I start an initial consult with most people, they've Googled something about Ayurveda for the most part. And I think sometimes they get overwhelmed because there are these lists of like, favor all these things, avoid all these things. And then by the time they come see me, they're like, that's why they're seeing me. Because they're like, I can't follow all this stuff, right? So my approach really is to keep things as simple as possible because it's an overwhelming science. It's 5,000 years old. Like, how do we encompass all that in, an hour-long consult, right? And over time, I call them like the big guns. So I'll say, if there's a skin disease going on or some disease process, I'll say, let's start by just avoiding these 3 things. So I'll start that way rather than giving them these lists because they've already seen those lists, right? And if we can't follow it and we can't, be attuned to it, then there's no point. So we start out in that realm of just like, here's the big things I want you to avoid. And here's the things I want you to favor. And so back to your question of like, how do we bring these principles in? A lot of it is education, and the more we can keep like something like this, where we're talking to many right? And being able to kind of pass this message along, pass this wisdom along, because it is that. It's wisdom that's kind of gotten, I wouldn't say forgotten, but it's our job to bring it back. It's my mission to bring it back.
And I think you allude to it, it's wisdom, and it makes sense. I remember the first time I learned about the doshas. I think people are really intrigued when they learn a discipline or a perspective and they feel it in their body. Like, oh, I am very Pitta or fiery, or I am more Vata and air, or oh, that person's very Kapha and heavy and earthy. So can you explain the doshas and how someone can figure out what dosha constitution they are?
So the doshas are actually based on the 5 elements. So once we understand nature, we understand the water, the earth, the fire, the air, and the space, then we can start to understand our internal nature, because all we are these little human beings walking around, these vessels, but we just contain the 5 elements if you go to sea. So in nature, we quickly understand the sun, right, is the fire element. We understand the air through the wind. And then we understand earth because we're on Mother Earth, anything dense in nature. So the doshas are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. These 3 words are Sanskrit words for air, fire, and earth. So when we break this down, we start to understand that the air element in our bodies are responsible for different things in all of us. And air is responsible for movement. So we're talking like bowel movements, me talking right now, us talking, our blood flowing, our neurons firing. So everything to do with movement, Vata is responsible for. And so none of us should really be void of Vata. We have Vata. We want that Vata to be moving in a downward, beautiful direction. Once it starts moving upward or in any other format, that's when we start to see imbalance. So think of these like 3 little jars, right? And we think, okay, all the things that we do causative factor wise, going to increase Vata, things that increase Pitta and things that increase Kapha. So that's what we're really kind of trying to treat at the end of the day. Let's go to Pitta. When we talk about Pitta, we talk about fire, and we talk about fire in terms of our little digestive fire that sits in our little bellies, and understanding that we have to digest so much that we come in contact with. Not only the food we put in, not only the water we put in, but the conversations we're having, the things we're putting on our skin, the news we take in, right? So we have to digest life constantly. So that fire element helps us do that. And again, if fire goes off balance though, and we see too much fire in our systems, that's where inflammation sets in. That's where we start to see redness, rashes, heartburn, fevers, anything with a lot of heat. Okay. Pitta lives in the eyes, so we might see things in the eyes too. If Kapha is out of balance, we'll talk balance first. Kapha is earth element. So we're talking now, its responsibility in our bodies is mostly structure, strength, and immunity. So we need Kapha in our bodies to feel grounded, to feel supported. If we don't have Kapha, we wouldn't have these nice coverings around our joints that keep us mobile, right? We'd be walking around like little skeletons, and we don't want that. We want some nice movement in our joints. We want good immunity and good stability. So that's his job in our bodies. And then out of balance, though, when we see a lot of Kapha, we start to see more things like coughs and colds, sticky, icky conditions, things that slow us down. We feel sluggish. We feel like it's hard to kind of get things moving and do a lot. We feel amotivated. So yeah, that's a little about the doshas. There's so much more to them, but I say that's like the crux. And so if you can resonate with one of those 3, you can start to understand your imbalance or where you're bringing in imbalance. Now there's constitution, and everybody loved this at the dinner. They were just like all over it. You know how you like people watch and you're like, at the airport and people are walking by and you're like, oh, that's a Vata, that's a Pitta, that's a Kapha. So now there's constitution. So we're born with a certain constitution. And we can't quite figure that out at birth because we're all these like little Kapha beings, roly-poly with all the ojas. But as we gain understanding of how we act and how we behave and our nuances, that's when we get to understand, oh, that person's more of a Vata constitution. This person's more Pitta. This person's more Kapha. So I'll talk about the constitutions,
Please,
if you want me to, because I think it's exciting because you're like, everyone wants to resonate with something, right? And not to put any of them in a box or say anything's right or wrong or good or bad or I wish I was more this. Like, no, we need everyone in the universe to function. For example, we need the creatives, the vatas. We need the more, strong kind of A-type pittas. And then we need the kaphas for the grounded and the presence and all of that. So the vata individual is someone who's definitely taller, leaner, thinner. They've definitely got a lot of creative aspects to them. They're very energetic initially and then can kind of be like these enthusiasts, and then the enthusiasm kind of quickly goes down. They're definitely the people in the yoga classes that are, pretzeling around and can move their limbs every which direction. They tend to be kind of talkative. They can kind of always whip up a conversation. They're spontaneous. They're just like here and then they're there. And then, they're just all over the place.
Lots of movement.
Lots of movement. There you go. And then we talk about Pitta, a little more medium build now, very organized. Everything's in its place, color coded. The A-types. You think about that, right? Like very strong, ready to get going on anything, have a lot of fire in their bodies. And then Kaphas are more, they're graceful, they're smooth. Think of like the singers with like the amazing, beautiful, voice like Adele. Think about the graceful, sometimes like the ballerinas even though they can be thinner and taller, there's also like needing that like Kapha energy in their bodies. Also, we think of people who just like, they love giving. They give to everyone else and then themselves. Very affectionate, rock steady. You can just count on them. So they've got a deep presence to them and a deep affection for others.
Wow.
So yeah, that's the constitution. But most of us have kind of gone off our constitution because we take in all these causative factors all day long. And so we're out of balance.
You mentioned we're born Kapha, which makes sense. We're just like grounded, rolly, we're dense. So when you talk about the constitutions, is this, okay, a child starts to develop their personality and that's what creates like this Vata tone or Pitta?
So a certain amount of doshas actually get passed on to the child from mom and dad.
Through DNA, you would say?
Through elemental as the baby's kind of growing.
Okay.
And because we talk about loading the child, right, with these doshas, and the doshas are kind of out of balance. So hence, it brings me to the point of cleansing before conceiving, because we want to make sure our doshic load is as less as possible in terms of the imbalance, right? So that we're not passing that doshic load on to the child. And then as the child grows, then it's about the causative factors that we put in to the baby and the child as they're growing. So hence it's so important, baby's born, we start doing warm oil massage, we start feeding them with khichdi, we start doing all of the beautiful routines to keep the baby healthy. So that the doshas are not increasing. So the baby is born, we'll go back to that point, with the kapha, right? And it's more about that they're stages of life where kapha comes in and we got that oiliness and the smoothness and the denseness. Then as we keep aging, now we're in the pitta stage of life where we get things done and we're like very productive and we've got that pitta energy. So now we're talking just the energetics of life added on to the energetics of the doshas. And then as we age, we go into the vata stage of life after 60 or 70. So that's when we start to see like, the teeth falling out and the dry skin and the gray hair and the joints that are aging and cracking.
Wow.
So there's all these cycles and all this overlap.
Most people understand Western medicine. They use labs, they use imaging, maybe TCM, they do look at the tongue, they do check pulses. What are the tools of Ayurveda? Like how do you tune into someone's body?
Yeah, so I actually don't use any lab tests. That's when we talk about purist and like, God, tried and true. Pulse, right? Just like Chinese medicine. But what we're checking in the pulse is Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So a lot of my patients are like, are you checking my pulse and pulse? And I'm like, nope, I'm checking the energetics of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha.
How do you feel that?
It's crazy.
I'm always
So Vata is stringy. It's like a guitar string. It's when we're talking out of balance. Pitta is more kind of like feisty and fiery and like very energetic. And the Kapha is kind of dense. And, so it takes a lot after you feel enough pulses. You're like, oh, okay, I know what's coming up to my fingertips. I can kind of start to feel the nuances of the pulse. Tongues are a little more easier to understand. So we're going to look at the tongue, just like Chinese medicine, but we're going to look at the coating. We're going to say, is there a thicker white coat? If there is, that means there's a lot of what we call toxin accumulation, ama. And the tongue is a mirror to our digestion. It's a perfect mirror. So whatever we don't digest the night before, it's going to show up on our tongue the next day. And so we talk about tongue scraping for that matter, right? And really understanding the importance of the tongue.
Explain the tongue scraping. Because I was with friends the other day and I'm like, you guys don't scrape your tongue? And I had no idea. And
most people don't.
Yes.
They have no idea. Or they take their toothbrush and do their thing.
No, this is way better.
We're talking traditional tongue scraper, U-shaped, you're holding it with two hands, and you are going from back to front 6-7 times after you brush your teeth, morning and evening. So twice a day. You're going to get a bunch of gunky stuff on that little U-shaped stainless steel or copper tongue scraper. You're going to wash that off and then put it in your little holder and use it again at night.
I don't go anywhere without it.
There you go. And I can't even wake up and not do that. And my little kids do it, and they know. So, and the idea is your food tastes better. You've stimulated your digestive tract and you've cleaned the toxins from the night before. Just brushing your teeth is not enough. They really understood this. So tongue scraping, super important. And then I also traditionally touch the top of people's head when I'm doing my observational and my analysis of halfway through our consult where I'm doing my diagnostic work.
What does the top of the head give you?
Top of the head, like how much heat is in our bodies. I press on the shins to understand, the vata and the bone marrow, and if there's any tenderness there, and there's some connection there with the gut. So there's a lot of different tools I'm using. Also the abdominal massage and percussing and feeling where the doshas are throughout the belly.
How do you feel where the doshas are?
So based on percussion, you start to hear through resonance, okay, there's more pitta, there's more vata, there's more kapha, and then there's the areas of our belly. So our kapha sits up here, top up here. Pitta sits right in the middle, and then vata's down below.
So kapha, pitta, and then vata's lower.
Vata's lower.
Why?
Because vata has to do with movement. So imagine vata is in the lowest colon, which is why we use some more enema clearing techniques for vata. Pitta's kind of right in the center, small intestine, liver. And then kapha's up top, stomach, gallbladder, all of that. Okay. So when we talk about kapha also lives just in this first 1/3 of our body. Pitta lives kind of right in the center and vata down below. We use our legs to move. So that's kind of their homes. That's where they sit. But they also have affinity to go to other areas. So that's how they set up shop and take over an area of the body and cause disease.
Tell me about the ears and eyes, because those are two areas that,
The ears are the seat of vata. Remember that old wives' tale that's cover your ears, you're going to catch a cold.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So talk about vata with that. And yes, how important putting cotton balls in the ears if you're in a windy place, or covering your head with a hat. We have all these beautiful marma points, right, on our head and behind our head and in our ears. And so we want to cover those areas because they're sensitive. And that is wind, catching wind right through our ears is how we catch a cold.
Explain the marma points, because these aren't meridians as far as acupuncture, but they're similar.
They're similar, and they can be stimulated, and they exist all throughout the body. So they are very much in tune with the meridians, and we place warm oil on a lot of them, especially when we're dealing with the head. So I'll take some in the palm of my hand, right on the top of the head. We'll massage the ears with oil. We'll fill the ears with oil.
Yes.
So that's a beautiful treatment for tinnitus, any complaint kind of above the clavicle, dizziness, just when vata has just accumulated in the body, putting some warm oil in the ears is like magic.
Wow. So what is the oil doing?
The oil is going in. We're filling it completely, and then we're putting a cotton ball. We're switching sides, doing the other side. The oil is quickly pacifying vata. And oil has a quality of being able to get into the smallest of channels. So the work is done within 10 seconds. It's not like you got to sit there and keep the oil in, and very good for jet lag. So if you get to like your location and you're just traveled for, umpteen hours, talk about road trips and stuff, right? And you come home, have a partner, have somebody put some warm oil in your ears. Now, if you're doing that for the first time, maybe you come see a practitioner, but a couple drops even will do, safely at home. But eventually, doing a warm oil treatment for the ears is beautiful. And we live in a Vata-toxic society, I call it. We just do. There's so much being thrown at us. It's responsible for 80% of all disease. Because it's the easiest to move. It's the easiest.
Very interesting.
Pitta and Kapha are stable doshas.
That makes sense.
We don't need Vata, but Vata is the one that moves.
It's the stimulating one, right?
Stimulating one.
Aggravating,
yes,
irritating.
Absolutely. Wow. So if there's one thing we can do, it's to regularize Vata. It's to keep Vata. Talk about nervous system, all the work you guys do, right? That is what we're trying to do. We're just trying to regulate our nervous system. When we talk about Vata is responsible for our nervous system.
Okay, let's get into food. Because I think one of the biggest things I love being in the kitchen. I picked up so many Ayurvedic cookbooks. I love the taste of Indian food. I love spices. I love the warming. I love the khichdi. Like, there's so much that I love, but a typical person, do they need to adopt an Indian cultural diet? Or how does a Japanese person do it? How does an Italian person do it? Like, different cultures, how can you mimic the principles of Ayurveda in any cultural food?
I love this because I am not a proponent that's like, okay, now you got to like all of a sudden change everything in your kitchen and become like an Indian. And even then, becoming an Indian is actually not right either, because there are so many people in India not eating according to Ayurvedic principles. So it's actually a misnomer that, okay, I can go to an Indian restaurant and I can find Ayurvedic food. It's not going to happen. In fact, things like khichdi, which is mung dal and rice and a mixture of vegetables, things like khichdi you won't even find in an Indian restaurant. So what I love to do with a lot of my first-time patients who are just not ready to like encompass a whole new cuisine, I like to just start to get them to understand, like you said, the principles, right? And the principles are eat a warm cooked meal as much as you can, not a big heaping salad. And if you're going to have a big heaping salad, have it with a warm cooked meal. Have your biggest meal at lunchtime, because the sun is here to help us digest our meal. Our digestive fire is at its peak from 10 to 2. So there are so many beautiful principles like this that we can start to incorporate into any cuisine. We don't need, to understand, okay, how to make khichdi or how to use the lentils. Now, could those be great additions to start to learn? Absolutely, because those are some of the tried and true foods to Ayurveda. But there's so much we can still do and start to understand. Ice cold water. We don't want to put that on our digestive fire when we're about to eat a beautiful hot meal. So as long as you can stick to some of these principles, I think people are going to be just fine. Now, would I love each person to have a little spice box in their house with some of the Ayurvedic spices? Absolutely.
What are your go-to
Can't go
spices?
wrong. I would say like as far as powders, turmeric, coriander, and cumin. These are 3 amazing spices. We know turmeric as the anti-everything, right? Anti-parasitic, anti-cancer, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. You got it. Like, turmeric has to be in everything. Even if I whip up some, eggs or stir fry, like turmeric goes in. It just does. So that's very important. Coriander and cumin, great for, igniting the digestive fire. A little fresh ginger goes a long way. Shredding it. Cilantro as a nice little topping, especially in our Arizona Pitta season where it's hot. Cilantro is extremely cooling. I love mustard seeds and cumin seeds. So our seeds always go in the oil. They actually, as soon as the oil or your cooking medium heats up, you always put the seeds in first and let them pop and bring out their pungent flavor.
Okay.
So that's what's happening with the seeds. So seeds first, then all your, goodies inside your, pot.
So you're warming the seeds with an oil.
You are.
You can smell the fragrancy too.
You can smell them ignite. You'll hear the mustard seeds pop. You'll hear the cumin seeds pop. That means, without burning them, that means they're starting to ignite their pungency into the oil. So you've just infused your oil with these beautiful spices. If you're really a go-getter with Ayurveda, get some asafoetida. Asafoetida is hing. Put a dash of that as well, kind of like an oniony flavor.
Can you spell that?
Yes. Asaeofitida.
Where do you get
Don't hold me to it. Amazon, Indian store. You're probably not going to find it at like Whole Foods, or Trader Joe's or anywhere like that, because it's a very Indian spice, but it is the best anti-bloat.
I had no idea.
Yes.
What's it taste like?
Oniony.
Really?
And it smells like a little oniony. And you just put a dash of that and it's going to take all the gassy stuff out of the food that you're making.
So great for beans or heavy, dense vegetables.
Yes. Wow. And I love a pressure cooker. Do you like a pressure cooker?
Love a pressure cooker.
Mm-hmm. Scary to use.
The first time.
When
you release the valve.
Yes. Scary to use, but that's what I love teaching too, is like, how do you use this pressure cooker? How can you walk away from something, let it cook, right? Let it whistle. It takes out, do you know Dr. Stephen Gundry?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's the lectin guy.
He's a lectin guy. He loves, when I read that book, I was like, the principles are like Ayurveda. Yeah, plant paradox.
Oh, are they very
Very
similar?
much he was using principles like that. He's talking about ghee. He was talking about using a pressure cooker, getting rid of some of the lectins, using a cooker when you're using beans. And we've been using these cookers from who knows when.
Right.
Right? And with the 3 whistles and your meal's cooked.
So you mentioned spices. What are your favorite herbs? Should everyone be on 2 just gentle herbs just to regulate the tone?
They could be. I'd say I like hot teas because those just keep the system moving. I love coriander, cumin, and fennel tea. That's a very available, they call it CCFT. It's available on Amazon, on Banyan Botanicals, any Ayurvedic site will have CCFT, coriander, cumin, and fennel. Herbs wise, I would just be careful, right? Because a lot of people think, I can start taking ashwagandha and I can take shatavari and triphala and great, work with them. But if our digestive fire is not ready to handle some of the herbs, especially the heavier herbs like ashwagandha, it just may not be reaching where it needs to.
How does Ayurveda look at the emotional, the biopsychosocial component?
It's a part for me that was missing through my years of training. But yes, the mind is so important. Actually, all disease starts in our mind. And over the years, I've become so much more attuned with this psychospiritual piece. I've actually taken a lot of extra education on the spiritual psychology and the spiritual tools that I've helped my clients now with, because I think it's super important. And then most recently, I love bringing human design in. I think it's super important in terms of the energetics. And then I love gene keys. Have you heard of gene keys?
You were the first person to share gene keys.
Yes.
So for anyone that doesn't know, human design, gene keys, very similar, but
they're not based on one Chinese medicine or this or that. They've actually been super all-encompassing. But Gene Keys is beautiful work by Richard Rudd. And that really is my crux for when I'm helping someone along with any anxiety, depression, or any mental, emotional illness and imbalance. And because we work on the shadow, the gift, and the siddhi level, and the shadow is all of our wounding. It's everything that's been stored, right? And if we can't start to understand our patterns and all of that, then we're not going to move through some of this denseness. And it relates to the physical body,
Absolutely.
Right? Physical, emotional, mental, it's all there together.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. Let's just face it.
Let's get into rhythm. I want to understand, how do you set up your day and life to eat in rhythm and to move in rhythm? And then what is your spiritual practice for either opening your day or closing your day?
I'd say my tried and true things are making sure to eat a warm meal for lunch and dinner for the most part. And that too fresh. You will not find things in my freezer. That is something I have stuck by and I feel really, really good about. And simple things like using the pressure cooker and, making sure, now, do I eat out? Of course. But I'm very intentional about when I eat out, how often, and then incorporating the cleanses into my yearly part of my routine, specifically one called Virachin. It's more of one that helps Pitta move through the body. It's a laxative treatment. It consists of like 8 days. So you take a bunch of ghee, you do a bunch of oil massages, and then
So great for constipation,
likely? Yes, good for constipation, great for skin problems. That's the one I want to do to complete the curing of my skin thing. I start my day with a lot of my prayer and a lot of my beautiful rituals that involve gratitude and bringing in the good energy into my day. A lot of talk about movement. I love getting in like a long walk or a long hike.
So everyone talks about longevity. Everyone's obsessed with how do I live longer? How do I live a quality of life? Where do you land on the spectrum of, is it about living to 100? Or is it more like, hey, take every year and just maximize the quality?
I would say present moment. I'm such a present moment girl. We do not know what's going to happen, tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, right? So living each day to the hilt, and that's part of my gene keys. My top one, which is all about like life's work and life's purpose, is about totality. And so I make sure, I think of my life now in these like little buckets, and making sure I'm just dropping like a little drop into each bucket in my whole day, and just making sure that like, okay, I ask myself the question, like, have I lived today, just at my highest self, my highest peak, and have I done exactly like what I wanted to accomplish today?
We have to talk about your Royals retreats.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh. So the Royals developed, I want to say like 3-4 years ago now. There was this amazing opportunity with Experience Scottsdale, which is our convention and visitors bureau. And I was invited to be like a part of like a kind of like a guinea pig type experimental, let's put these unforgettable, exceptionally Scottsdale, beautiful experiences together. So I worked very diligently with the team they had and, took the opportunity and came up with the Ayurvedic Royals, an experience kind of like an Ayurvedic sampler. Like we cook together, we eat together, we understand how to make khichdi, we get a little balancing massage, we do a little meditation, we do a little dosha discovery. So everybody kind of leaves about 2.5-hour retreat, getting like the tip of the iceberg Ayurvedic experience. And it's held at a beautiful kind of retreat type home atmosphere. So it's very much in tune with nature. A lot of the, little experiences are all over the grounds and, in different places that are, very healing. And so we've been running that for groups of like at least 8, and just intimate groups. We can either do it at someone's home or do it at this place I just mentioned. And yeah, so it's one of those things we just came up with. I don't think there's a lot of wellness experiences in that curated, group I was part of. So it was like very, very just fitting. And gosh, how else to bring Ayurveda into Scottsdale, right? And something different for groups than, partying or, the normal, right? Like something wellness.
You're balancing Old Town. Yeah.
Yes, we're balancing Old Town. How to bring in these rituals. And that's where we're headed. Let's face it. Everybody is kind of like really into health and wellness. I think post-COVID, that really hit home for a lot of people.
Yeah, it woke a lot of people up.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
What about the Ayurvedic suppers? Because these are more dinner.
Yeah, the Ayurvedic suppers came up just at the tail end of last year. We held our 5th supper club last Friday just now. And those have been such a hit. They are just the ambiance. It's about a couple hours. Myself and one of my chefs, her name is Chef Jen. She has done a lot of my retreats with me. So we both came up with this idea together and we said, let's host an Ayurvedic Supper Club. So, I hosted and kind of help educate during the meal, and she prepares the meal and the menu, and everybody kind of gets served. It's like a 3-course vegetarian, Ayurvedic, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free. Like, we're really making sure to appeal to a lot of people and people's, likes, dislikes. And And we educate just very basic, kind of what I taught you about the doshas and the constitution. There's not a lot of time to speak too much, but enough where everyone gets to understand a little bit about their dosha, how to balance it, and how to eat a meal curated to their dosha. So the condiments, the base meal is the same, and it's the condiments that are different.
Oh.
So like the sauces and the ghee, and like we curate it so everyone gets a little stone based on their dosha that's sitting at their seat, and then they get the base meal that's the same with khichdi or dal or rice or veggies. I mean, really done up really beautifully, and then they get to use their condiments to balance their
so very personalized,
plate. Very personalized, tailored. Yeah, so we love our supper club. Our next one's on December 12th. We already set the date. Yeah, it's always on a Friday. 6 to 8-ish, something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So all these Ayurvedic things.
I love it. And it's a lifestyle-based practice. And I think you nailed it. Let's start simple and small.
Absolutely.
Start with food.
Yeah.
And then maybe move to options of cleansing or working with you one-on-one. I think it's incredible. And education is important. You do have a book.
Yes.
Lens of Ayurveda. Where can people find this book?
Absolutely.
How can they connect with you?
Amazon. And then obviously at our business here in Old Town, Second Nature Clinic. The book is called The Ayurvedic Lens, Magnifying the Mysteries and Abundance of Life and Living from Complexity into Simplicity. I wrote it, back. It's been like a decade. It's been like over a decade.
I remember when I first met you. You were writing it.
I was writing it. I was pregnant. I think my little girl was 14 months old. I went to this writing retreat, Tom Bird, amazing writing retreat. If anyone wants to ever write a book, we all have a book inside of us. We really do.
Agreed.
And so I just downloaded the book in my own, downloaded right brain format that he takes us through and wrote this beautiful book. So it's actually an educational memoir, very much in tune with like my life and my story, but also Ayurveda and all the principles of Ayurveda.
Well, how else can people reach you? Website, Instagram,
Yes.
Where are you?
Instagram handle, Second Nature Clinic, secondnatureclinic.com. And then we have a brick and mortar right here in Old Town, First Avenue. We do all the beautiful cleansing treatments, all the oil massages we talked about, the Shirdara, the warm well in the third eye, and then the supper clubs, the royals. I mean, we have Zen Lounge happy hour every Thursday. All these beautiful wellness experiences.
And I think that's what's so beautiful. It is something you have to experience, and then it makes sense.
Yes.
When you put that type of food and that type of intention into your body, it just makes sense and you feel so good.
It's so true. I think that's what I loved, talk about why I even went into Ayurveda is because it made sense. Yeah. I think you're right about that for sure.
Well, Dr. Thanki, thank you so much.
My gosh,
it's been an honor and a privilege. And I can't wait to experience more with Ayurveda. And thank you for simplifying it and making it super practical.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
If you like this episode, share it with a friend. For more conversations filled with awe and wonder, be sure to subscribe to the Vitalist Podcast. Till next time.